I know, I didn't
Well, this is a good one. I went to the grocery store, got supper, got a phone call at the car that I got a second interview, forgot, and went to McDonald's after, so I got 2 suppers. She goes, well, I said, I bought 2 suppers. I bought stuff at Walmart, I got a phone call, I got a second interview for the admin assistant. Oh, you do? The NCC-UNA partnership. So, I got the call, and I was all frustrated, and I went right to the McDonald's drive-thru, and I got my mom said, I could already bought something. Amy turned her position into an admin position. Oh, okay. And that's what I'm doing. Awesome. Good to you. So where are you going? Police K-Tech. And administrative assistant. Okay. So, you didn't use the title? She didn't want to come back after. Oh, this is going to start. Oh, the other Oh, so she didn't want to travel. I've seen her a long while. She's been there since I started. How long? Quite a while. Finish off good stuff. Yeah, but I don't know, but I was excited to ask you about the centers of like they're getting federal funding to expand the whole center.
This is opening the meeting of the RSU67 school board. I want to remind all of those present that our school board meeting is conducted from a prepared agenda for the purpose of executing the official business of the school system. It's only in the actions of this meeting that the individual board members have any authority, not individually. I want to remind people of that. Although these meetings are held in public, they're not public forums. Opportunity will be provided for members of the public to express opinions related to matters concerning the education in RSU67 schools. Individuals wishing to address the board will be asked to state their name and address, and we'll ask them to come up at the podium so that they can be videoed. The board will hear but not discuss or act on comments at the board meeting. No comments regarding any person employed by the school system or against particular students will be allowed. And speakers are not permitted to share gossip, make defamatory remarks, or use abusive or vulgar language. And now, let's call the roll, please.
Linda Brown is absent. Diane Buck.
Present.
William Chubbuck.
Present.
Jasmine Bolster. Here. Rebecca Hanscom's absent. Aaron House is absent. Diana Lambert. Here. Stephanie Marquis. Here. Patricia Noble. Here. Mary Floor. Here. Brian Sweep is absent. Grace Tibbetts. Present. Quincy Clifford. Here. Molly Graham. Here.
And now if you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our superintendent has some announcements to the agenda.
I have a few this evening. Under G, communications, we have G5, I have a resignation. G6, a volunteer cheering coach to announce. And under the superintendent's report L, we're going to add number 4, donations. And those are all the adjustments.
Good. And now, if you would,
Are our auditors here?
I received a message and they're coming, there was an accident in Bangor, so they are being delayed, but they should be here.
okay, we have a special position on our agenda, but we will put it down until the participants arrive.
We can come back.
Yes. Okay, and do I have a motion to accept the minutes of our last meeting, November 3rd? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Any opposed? I see none, and the motion is passed. And now, if our superintendent will give us our communications.
Okay, communications this evening. Number 1, announcing Mount Arthur Academy's girls JV basketball coach for the 2021-2022 winter sports season is Jackson Weatherby. Mount Arthur Academy eSports coach for the 2021-2022 winter sports season is Derek Brewer. We have a new hire, Heather Spearin, is special education van driver for the school year. New hire, Lita Lee, special education van driver for the school year. Announcing the resignation of Pam Page, Educational Technician 3 at Norfolk Junior High School, effective 11/12/21. We thank her for her 3 years of service. And announcing Mallory Layton will be the volunteer cheering coach for Mount Arthur Academy Winter Sports. Those are all the communications.
Thank you. And now, I believe we have a policy committee report. Excuse me, my vision is letting me down. Now, this is the time where we allow public participation. Does anyone wish to address the school board? Would you come up and stand at the podium?
My name is David Moyson. I live here in Lincoln. I'm standing here to ask members of the board and the superintendent to delay the pending COVID vaccination clinic until parents have seen a vaccine fact sheet that has been prepared by a neutral party rather than the party that has a vested interest in the number of vaccines administered here.
Thank you. Are you done?
No.
Oh, go ahead.
The school board and the school can do so safely, and I know that the welfare of the children attending our schools is first and foremost in your hearts. The very small percentage of the student body that truly needs to be vaccinated is known to their parents and guardians and to their healthcare professionals. They have access to the advice needed before they get vaccinated, and they also have access to the vaccine. So how about the rest of the students? Somewhere around 40% of the students in the school already have natural immunity, according to the CDC. What about the others? It's probably about 50% of the student body. They fared well so far during the COVID outbreak. Delaying vaccinating them for a few days or weeks is fine. One can reasonably expect them to fare well during that period of time. This fact sheet reads like an invitation to get vaccinated, rather than the neutral, balanced presentation of the pros and cons that it should be. Let me give you a few examples. Page 3, very beginning of the page. What are the benefits of the vaccine? The vaccine has been shown to prevent COVID. A more reasonable statement would be the vaccine has been shown to temporarily reduce the incidence of infection, hospitalization, and death. Efficacy fades after a few months. We know this. Pfizer knows this. We know it because of the results in Israel. How many of you are familiar with the Israeli situation? All right, let me give you a little information. Israel is one of the most thoroughly vaccinated countries in the world. It is exclusively vaccinated with Pfizer, the vaccine that the school system proposes to vaccinate. And as of beginning of summer, 50% of the Israeli population was vaccinated, fully vaccinated. As of sometime late July, early August, 70% of the population was vaccinated. Nevertheless, the most recent surge of COVID in Israel, which began in early July, is far and away the most severe surge that Israel has suffered so far. That's the Pfizer vaccine. That should tell you that the protection Pfizer offers is brief. Going further down page...
We have a limited amount of time, so if you would bring your comments to a conclusion, thank you.
Going further down page 3, the side effects listed omit the third, fourth, and sixth most numerous and most severe consequences of this vaccine. And those are just the near-term consequences. It also omits the fact that according to the U.S. CDC, deaths per million of fully vaccinated people is 3.6 times deaths with COVID amongst people aged, well, from babies to year 17. And that 3.6 multiplier, as bad as it is, understates the adverse consequences for healthy kids. There was a study by Johns Hopkins done using data from 2020, which showed that virtually every child who died with COVID through late summer, early fall of 2020 suffered a severe physical or developmental issue. There's 15 comorbidities associated with those deaths. That's it. Healthy children lacking those comorbidities, survived. Let me give you one final figure. According to the CDC estimated COVID burden report, there were just under 25,850,000 infections of COVID amongst people aged 0 to 17. Of those, 25,843 25,843,000 plus survived. Let me repeat that. 25,844,000 kids were infected. Virtually all of them survived. As a result, I urge you, on behalf of the students, to postpone this clinic until parents and guardians are better informed about the consequences of the vaccine. I'm not saying don't vaccinate, I'm just saying be better informed.
Is there anyone else who needs to make a presentation from the public? Okay. And now, the public participation is now closed, and I think we can go back to our earlier on the agenda, our audit report.
So I asked in front of you, you have, I know some folks wanted to bring their audit report that we handed out a couple weeks ago, and it's been very thoroughly done, and we asked Mr. Wadman if he'd come up to present the audit from the podium so that we can make sure that members of the public who are watching it elsewhere can see that.
I'm going to hand around a page for you to replace, because something that we didn't have in the audit. Do you want to
take it and pass it around.
It's gonna be a cheat. And these are going the other direction.
That one is this, we already have
The handouts making around, or?
So, I think there's that.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. Apologize for being a few minutes late. A little accident in North Ellsworth as we were making our way up here, so traffic was standing still for a while. It took us a few extra minutes to get here. So we appreciate you letting us squeeze in here as soon as we made it along. So, here we are again, presenting your audit for you folks for this year. Very lengthy document. These never seem to get any shorter as more and more disclosures get added by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, but I'll try to cut things down to some of the more important pages to pay attention to as we go through. The Independent Auditor's Report is on pages 1 and 2. So here's where, as your audit firm, we express our opinion on the financial statements that you have, the note disclosures that go along with them. Also is where we express our opinion on your compliance with your federal grant programs. Federal grant programs with all the related COVID funding becoming a very significant item for us in this particular year. We're doing probably 4 times as many of the federal compliance audits as we would do in a normal year because of all the increased funding. You folks have had a federal compliance audit every year for as long as I remember. I don't know if there's been a year that I can think of that you haven't had. So you have an unmodified or a clean opinion on your financial statements and your compliance with your federal grants this year. We'll touch upon the federal grants some more toward the end of my presentation here too. So the management's discussion and analysis follows the opinion letter. This is on pages 3 through 8, I believe. 3 through 8. So these several pages really give you a nice narrative summary of the financial highlights for this past year. From a financial standpoint, it was a very strong year for the RSU67 in terms of increasing your unassigned fund balance at the end of the year. Revenues, as we'll look at it in a particular exhibit here in a few minutes, revenues exceeded budget, and expenditures were, again this year, significantly below budget. So, significant amount of money went back into your unassigned fund balance this past year. At the end of this fiscal year, ended June 30th, 2021, you had an unassigned fund balance of $4,671,383. That's an increase of roughly $800,000 from the year before. Significant increase for this past year. This is a percentage of your expenses, represents almost 43% of your general operating fund expenses. So, very, very healthy financial position. That percentage grew roughly 7% from the year before. we'll talk about, again, some of the budget versus actual figures here in a moment or two. In the handout I gave to you, you can see where you folks have been. We've got you compared to some other school systems. We've got the numbers here as well for MSAD 41, MSAD 31, both K through 12 schools like you folks, and then also RSU 68, which is a K through 8 school system over there. So you can see, both in terms of dollars and as a percentage of your expenses, what a strong financial position you're in. Does anybody have any questions on that before we continue on? Financial statements begin on page 9. I want to talk a little bit about page 9. This is a statement of net position. This is the balance sheet for RSU 67 as of June 30th, 2021. The numbers here are, large numbers. There's a lot of items here that I want to talk about that aren't part of your operating budget process. This particular exhibit talks about your total financial position, so not just liquid assets that you can use to pay payroll and other related bills with, but also it has the capital assets of the RSU, vehicles, buildings, land, parking lots, large pieces of equipment are all included here. So there's a lot of assets here that can't be used to pay daily and weekly bills and so forth. But I also want to focus on, in the middle of this page, in the liability section on page number 9, the long-term liabilities. There's a small portion here, roughly $180,000 of outstanding debt that the RSU has, which is not very significant. But what is significant here is roughly $7.2 million of what we're talking about here is the net pension liability, the net post-employment benefits obligation that are included here on this financial statement. And these are the RSU's estimated portion of the unfunded liabilities for these programs that are run through the Maine Public Employees Retirement System and the Maine Education Association Benefits Trust. So this is a matter of looking at these future payouts over the years, the remaining lives of retirees versus what's there for assets to pay them, and they come up with these significant liabilities. So they really skew the numbers here when we're looking at your financial statements. But they are required to be here as part of this financial statement presentation. And we get toward the back of the report, I'll talk briefly about some several-year comparison figures that we have as we're required to put in there, but I'll touch upon that in a few minutes. Before we move on, any questions on that information? Any questions on that? Beginning on page 12, through the remainder of these financial statements, now we're working with numbers that follow your budget process. You're only looking at assets, for example, that you can use to pay bills with and so forth. We're not looking at land and buildings and so forth and all these pension and post-employment benefit obligations. We're looking at figures that match the financial reporting that is prepared in your central office by your finance department, and they also follow along with your budget process. So again, that begins on page 12 and really follows with all these financial statements that follow. Begin on page 15 and all the way through page 40. The notes to the financial statements, and there's a lot of accounting policies in here that are followed in pulling together your financial information. The pages 26 through 39 are related solely to those pension and post-employment benefit obligations. So there's just a tremendous amount of required disclosure information in here on these statements. On page 42, 41 and 42, sorry. 41 and 42, we've got 7 years now, all of a sudden. It seems like we've only been doing this for a few years, but we're already up to 7 years of disclosure information on the pension obligations. And it shows the unfunded liabilities, not only for RSU 67, but also for the whole statewide plan, for the state employee teacher plan, and then the other one for it's called the participating local districts plan, which is basically the non-teacher employees that you might have. And then that's followed up by disclosures now that are coming in on what we call the OPEB, or the other post-employment benefits, which basically comes down to the life insurance and health insurance benefits for retirees. So, in total, this information with pensions and other post-employment benefits has probably added about 25 pages to your audit, and the Government Accounting Standards Board is not resting. They're still, we've got new information coming on in this year that you're in right now related to disclosing leases. So these reports are going to continue to grow, unfortunately. Page 48 is a good financial statement to look at. Now we're looking at, what happened with our operating results for this past year. And so we've got budget columns here with the original and final budget, just a slight difference between the original adopted budget and the final budget at the end of the year. And then the third column here on this particular exhibit are your actual operating results for your general operating fund. The last column on the far right-hand side compares favorable and unfavorable variances between budget and actual. And this is where you really see where the changes came in, where the increase to surplus came in. The budget was to reduce your unassigned fund balance or your surplus by $900,000. If you look at the bottom of the budget column, that was the plan. When it was all said and done, you actually increased your unassigned fund balance by $774,666. So, and you're looking at budget versus actual. Revenues came in $257,777 higher than budget. So that's a pretty significant amount. Really, the big change here is in your expenses comparing budget to actual. 1.4 million in expenses below budget. Really was really where the bulk of this change came from. Any questions on this before we continue on?
Correct, so I just make one comment for the board to remember, this was at the end of June, to remind you all that if you look at that balance that was just shared, $900,000 was put towards this year's budget, so you have to take that off that total, and $500,000 was put towards capital reserve. So what you really have is about $3.2 million, just to let the board know that.
So a total of 1.4 million used of that in this year that you're in now?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yep.
Just a quick question. If I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it wouldn't be the first time. There were 2 governors and 2 legislatures that borrowed considerably from the pension fund to balance the state budget. And am I correct that that has never been paid back as of yet, totally?
To my knowledge, that has not been paid back.
So that is quite different than what we owe if they ever paid back to the pension fund what they owed.
That would significantly increase the assets that the plans have. That's correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see where we want to go next. Just briefly move to page number 60. Where we what we're doing with page 60 is we kind of pull together the unassigned fund balance for the year. This is kind of where we pull everything together with some of these numbers we've been talking about on this short exhibit here. So you started the year roughly 3.9 million. Revenue surplus, 257,000 and change. The expense side surplus, 1.4 million, for a total of roughly $1,675,000 in increase. And then from that, we subtract the $900,000 that you used a year ago in your budget to reduce the assessments to the participating towns, leaving you with that $4,671,383 that we've been recording. So this again kind of just pulls it all together. Okay, now I'm going to move to page 74. And here's where we start with the reporting related to primarily federal and state compliance. And again, primarily these reports are on the federal side with your federal grant programs. We've got reports on internal control and compliance based on what's called government auditing standards, on pages 74 and 75. We have an unmodified opinion there. Page 76 and 77, there's a report on internal control and compliance based on what's called uniform guidance, which is the Single Audit Act on the federal side. So that, again, is an unmodified opinion there. Page 78 is going to be the current year status of any prior audit findings. So a year ago, we did have some findings related to the recording of some capital projects, and that was rectified this year, so we were able to provide a favorable current year status on that. Page 79 is called the Schedule of Findings and Question Costs. Here's where we list what the major federal programs were that we tested. And this was the new handout that Woody sent around. That page, there was something typed wrong on that summary of auditor's results, that top section there. We fixed that with the new page that was just handed out. So here's where we summarize the federal compliance audit work that we do. And then section B and C on this page is where we list any findings that we would have as a result of this compliance audit. And in this year, there were no findings related to the financial statement portion of the audit, and also no findings related to the major federal program that we audited, which was the Coronavirus Relief Fund. Page 80 is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. And again, any time that a governmental entity expends $750,000 or more in a year, then this is reporting is required, as well as all the testing and field work related to it. And as you can see on page 80, your total federal expenditures for this year were over $3 million, so you were well within that threshold again this year. And that concludes everything that I wanted to go over with you. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
I just think we need to say thank you to our bookkeepers for doing such a great job with our books and this sort of thing, to have an audit under, especially the conditions that this was done under.
What do you say, anything you want to add?
I'd like to echo your sentiments, because it was a challenging year with COVID, for one thing, and then on top of that, you had the loss of data that had to be re-entered, and the ladies in the office did a fantastic job of stepping up and doing a lot of extra work to get everything in for the audit to happen on time when they usually come. So you're absolutely right, they do deserve a lot of credit. You know, the staff, everyone in the office works really well from our perspective. And, you know, anytime during the year they have questions, will they contact us so that things can go smoothly and they know ahead of time how to handle things, and then so we appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's something, I mean, you've probably heard us say this every year, but it really is a very important thing to note, and just how proactively things are done, how up-to-date things are kept. And it allows us to, complete your audit for you in a very timely fashion. We seriously appreciate all the hustle that takes place to get things together for us. So, we say it every year, but I think it's worth saying. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Hope we don't have more accidents.
Mary, are you ready?
Yes.
Thank you. Policy Committee met this evening at 5:30. We reviewed 8 policies. Out of the 8 policies, 6 were reviewed, and there will be no first reading on them. We have 2. One is minutes, and the second one is BGR policy adoption process that will go to first reading. And our next meeting will be December 15th, 2021. Time to be announced here at the library. And thank you. Anyone have questions of Mary and her policy committee?
What were some of the policies you discussed?
Excuse me, I didn't hear you.
What were some of the policies that you discussed?
Oh, okay. You should have that in your packet. Oh, you don't have a computer yet, I'm sorry. One was BEDF, voting methods. BEDG, minutes. The second one was, we'll go to first reading, the minute one. Okay? BEDI, board relations with the media, and that was reviewed, so that won't go to first reading. BEDJ, broadcasting, taping, and board meeting, that was reviewed, so that won't go to first reading. BEDL, do you have it?
I do now.
Okay, thank you. You want me to continue and then let you know if a review is going to first reading?
Okay.
The only 2 that are going to first reading is BEDG and BG-R. The rest will go to first reading.
Okay.
Thank you. And now, thank you for coming. Do we have a student rep or reps to report?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. There's a lot of exciting things going on in the district that I'm really happy to update you guys on. One of the biggest things we have going on right now at the high school is that the Festival of Trees is back, and we're very, very excited about it. It's a festival that seniors hold pretty much every year, obviously due to COVID. It's been hindered the past couple of years. It was canceled one year, it was online another, but we're back in person, and we're really excited to kick it off. We want to give a huge shout out to Possibilities for hosting it. They've been extremely supportive, and we're just going to continue to support us throughout this weekend. So setup kicks off tomorrow morning, and raffle ticket sales are going to follow Friday through Sunday. So we're just really excited. It's brought together a lot of community involvement. We have 11 different sponsored trees, and a lot of parents helping out, and just extending support and letting us know if they're here if we need anything. So we're really, really excited to see how the rest of the community responds when we open the doors on Friday. The other thing that I have to report is that winter sports are starting up, and there's a lot of excitement going on about that, especially because spectators will be allowed back at basketball games. For MA, it will be home and away, and for the middle school, it will be reserved to just home parents and spectators at this time. We had over 75 high school students sign up across our 5 different sports. So we have girls and boys basketball, cheerleading, skiing, and wrestling. So we're seeing a lot of participation there. Through the hallways, everybody's talking about that practices are going to be starting up this Monday, the 22nd. So it's good to see so much energy, so much excitement, and hear from coaches and things like that that are kind of happy to get back to normal. So, and with that, I'm going to pass it off to Molly.
Thank you. So along with the seniors doing fundraisers, the junior class has started their first fundraiser ever for the class of 2023. They're starting to sell candy bars, and we've really turned it into a competition, and it's taken off, and it's brought all of our classmates together. I think I know everyone in my class's names now, because I've seen them about 700 times. Asking if I want to buy a chocolate bar, but it's getting us going, and looking really forward to our senior year. Hopefully we can do a lot more activities, especially as COVID restrictions change over time, and we can have a better senior year, hopefully than then. And also, I wanted to give a shout out to the student of the quarters up here at the high school. So for freshmen, we have Catherine Rothwell and Lexi Ireland. For sophomores was Payson Turner and Caden Callan, and then juniors was Kelly Stelso and Kiera Jenkins, and seniors was Quincy Clifford and Eve Layton. And I think that concludes our report for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions to ask our reps? No. Thank you, girls. Thank you for coming.
Good luck with your fundraising.
Thank you so much. And how do we get those chocolate bars? Well, what I'm going to present now is it's time to do our superintendent evaluations. And each of you will get a folder of these, and please fill them out and get them back. The best way to do it is drop them off at the superintendent's office. They're labeled with your names, so I'll just send them around, and the people who aren't here will be sent them in the mail.
Is there a date that they're due back by?
There is. There are directions in there as well.
I think the top page.
Do you think we can follow?
Absolutely. I know you can. So they're due back, let's see, by December 1st to the superintendent's office to Rose. So she can come on December.
You know, that's the date of our next meeting, I believe.
We could bring it to the next meeting if you want, or document whatever's most convenient.
But we need them.
December 1st, not like.
And that's all I have. And now, the superintendent will give a report.
Okay. First item is substitute rate of pay. And part of the reason, we're looking at this for two reasons. First of all, on January 1, the minimum wage is increasing again. It will be up to $12.75. So as you notice, what we're currently paying, we would not be in compliance with that. The second reason we're looking at this is that it's really difficult to find substitutes. I analyzed what neighboring districts were doing to see what they were paying, because it's very competitive to get folks. So you'll see here on a sheet that we gave out, we're going to vote on it later, how we're bumping up some of these rates. So our hope is that we can attract more people, get a bigger pool, and be competitive with others in our region. And later on, number one, you will be taking action on those tonight. And I would recommend that, although it's tied to the minimum wage January 1, I would recommend if we take action that we, after this action, we enact it at that time. Item 2, strategic planning, just a brief update. Online survey launched on November 8th, and as of this morning, we already have over 200 folks that have done it. I know, I'm going to say, I know Mr. Loisel and LP Burr, when they had their conferences last week, he was there with iPads, encouraging folks to do that. Students at MA and the junior high school will be able to take the online survey as well. So it'll all be during school, so I want to hear from those folks. And today, Dr. Austin and I visited every kindergarten and every second grade class to get their feedback, which on what they loved about their school and things that they would like change. and we certainly heard a lot about lunch. We enjoyed it, and on Friday, we'll be over again, and we'll finish the rest of the kids. For these kiddos, it was really difficult to have them take an online survey, so we just wanted to talk, and so we had a wonderful time visiting today. Student and staff recognition. I already know, I was going to chat about student of the quarter, but I'm glad that our student reps did that instead. That was on my report too, so I just want to say congratulations to all those folks. And I also want to congratulate Jerry Davis. She was selected as the recipient of the 2021 MSBA Distinguished Service Award, and you'll see on our website, she didn't know she was getting, we had to come down to our office and sort of force her to take a picture to have her up there. And just want to tell you what it is, the letter she received. To Jerry, congratulations on your selection as a recipient of the 2021 MSBA Distinguished Service Award. The MSBA Board of Directors wishes to express thanks and appreciation for all you and your colleagues did during our ongoing battle with the effects of COVID-19. Operating schools during this time, at best, has been a challenge. However, knowing you are there providing steady guidance during phone calls, endless contract tracing, and administrator, staff, parent, and student reassurances allowed schools in Maine to operate at a very high level during this pandemic. MSBA honors your work as outstanding and is very eager to provide you with this recognition. And it's signed President of MSBA, Becky Fleiss, and Executive Director, Stephen Bailey. And again, we want to thank Jerry and the whole team that our health aides for all their work during this time.
I'm sure you can add the board's thank you as well.
I will be sure to do that. Donations. First of all, I want to thank you to the Lincoln Fire Department and members of our community for donating funds so that we could distribute smoke detectors to all kids. And you may have seen on the news there, Ella P. Bird, Mr. Loisel did a cameo there at school. We're very grateful to this community for everything they do to continue to keep our kids safe. I want to thank Health Access Network. They donated 70 phones to the district. These phones they're no longer using, but they're compatible with our new phone system, so that it really helps us out if we need extra lines or we have some broken phones. We thank them for that donation. And also to let you know, we received $300 to the Amadinock Academy Athletic Department in memory of Michael Jarvis, so we thank them for that very generous donation. And that's all I have this evening.
And I don't know of any old business. Does anyone have any that I have forgotten? No? Okay. We're going into new business, and I will entertain a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to increase the following substitute rate of pay. And please look, instead of me reading them off to you, you can see them printed out very nicely, better than I can read them.
Move to approve.
Second. Okay. Is there any discussion or further questions? Go ahead, Bill.
And I'm hoping there's someone that knows more about this than I do, but I noticed that we have help wanted signs all over town, and I really don't know what the rate of pay is at a lot of these places, but they don't seem to be getting a lot of applications. I'm wondering, is this enough to get us where we need to be? That's a question that I don't know the answer to.
It is hard, though, because we're definitely competitive and we're above most. And the thing you have to remember with some of the wanted folks this is a sub, so it's a person that says, I would come in, I have other things I do in my life that I would do that on a temporary basis. So I think it's certainly fair. And also looking what other folks are offering for these positions that we're at or above.
How many substitute teachers do we have right now?
You know that well?
I do. We have probably 23, but not all want to be in this whole school. We got some that just want to be a LaVer, some that want to be MA, some just at the junior high. And not all of them on our list want to be teaching in ed techs. Some of them just want to be in a kitchen, or some just want to do custodial work. So.
So that 23 encompasses all positions, not just teaching, but school nutrition, facilities.
So are you feeling the pinch in terms of finding substitutes?
We're finding the pinch. Every administrator out there shaking their head, absolutely. It's very difficult. We're very grateful for all those folks that do so for us, because it's very, very difficult.
I think this is a good start. If we don't see something different, then we can look at it again later.
And I will say we're not unique, not just our area, but across the entire state. This is even in some very affluent communities in southern Maine, they're seeing the same problem.
I'm hearing it nationally as well. I'll call for the question. All in favor of the motion? And any opposed? I didn't see any. And the motion is passed. Thank you. And the announcements. First, we believe you all received this sheet that says Development Process Meeting Schedule. If you would please put these meetings that we're heading into the new year, we're going to be talking about budget again. And if you will put these meetings on your calendar, I won't read them off, but please, we need participation in all these budget workshops. The Operations Committee meeting will be Wednesday, December 1st. That's also the date of our next school board meeting. They will meet at 5:30 here in the library. And the school board meeting will be here, same day, December 1st, at 6:30 in the library. And again, you have a list of the budget timeline in front of you. If you didn't get one, we'll find one for you. And at this point, we can ask for any future agenda items. If you have any things that you want to put on the agenda, please see me or the superintendent. A reminder that the agenda has to be set up at least 3 days before the actual meeting. So it's not, we can't change the agenda once we get here, really. Okay, yes?
So I would like, when can I do something right now for the future agenda items? So I would like to revisit the idea of the kids wearing masks all day and also vaccinations.
Okay, we'll take that under advisement.
Okay, thank you.
Again, if something else comes up, please feel free to contact me or the superintendent, and we will decide whether or not to put things on the agenda. And it looks like there's no further business, and we will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
And all in favor? And the meeting is adjourned. It's 7:19.